There's a part of you that you refuse to look at, a version of yourself that feels dangerous, unpredictable, even terrifying. You suppress it, you push it away. Because if you acknowledged it, if you let it in, you wouldn't be the same person anymore. But what if I told you that's exactly what you need to do? Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant minds in psychology, believed that true transformation comes not from running away from our fears, but from becoming the very thing we're afraid of. This is the philosophy of the shadow self, and it might just change how you see yourself forever. Jung believed that deep within us, there's a side we don't acknowledge. The shadow self is everything you deny about yourself, the anger you suppress, the desires you ignore, the chaos you pretend doesn't exist. Society teaches us to be polite, controlled, predictable. But Jung warned, the more you reject your shadow, the more it controls you, because what we repress doesn't disappear. It grows stronger in the dark. Think about it. Have you ever met someone who seems too nice? They never get angry, they never argue, they're always agreeable. But then, one day, they explode. They lash out in a way that shocks everyone, including themselves. That's the shadow breaking through. The parts of ourselves we reject don't stay hidden forever. They manifest in moments of rage, self-destruction, and even depression. Jung's warning was clear. If you don't face your shadow, it will find a way to face you. So if repressing your shadow is dangerous, what's the alternative? Jung believed the key wasn't to destroy your dark side, but to integrate it. Because the parts of you that scare you the most might hold the greatest power. We all have a dark side, a part of us filled with impulses, anger, desires, and fears we'd rather ignore. But ignoring it doesn't make it go away. In fact, Carl Jung believed that true self-mastery comes when you stop running from your shadow and start integrating it. So how do you do that? Let's break it down into 3 steps, each one designed to help you confront, embrace, and transform the side of you that you fear the most. The first step is simple, but not easy. You have to identify your shadow. Most people don't even realize what they're suppressing, but your shadow leaves clues. Ask yourself, what traits in others trigger me the most? When do I feel the strongest emotional reactions? Anger, jealousy, shame? What parts of my past do I avoid thinking about? Your shadow isn't just your flaws, it's your unexplored potential. The aggression you fear might be untapped confidence. The selfishness you reject might be healthy self-respect. The more you understand it, the more you reclaim your own power. Once you've identified your shadow, the next step is crucial. You have to face it without judgment. Most people either ignore their dark side or they hate themselves for having one. Both approaches are wrong. Instead, Jung taught that we should observe our shadow with curiosity. If you feel anger, ask yourself, why? If you feel envy, ask yourself, what is this showing me about my desires? If you feel fear, ask yourself, what am I truly afraid of? Your shadow isn't your enemy. It's a part of you that's been waiting to be heard. The final step is where transformation happens. You take your shadow and turn it into strength. History's greatest leaders, artists, and warriors didn't suppress their darkness, they harnessed it. Bruce Lee transformed his rage into discipline. Nietzsche turned his struggles into philosophy. Even Jung himself used his darkest moments to develop the very ideas we're talking about right now. Your shadow is raw power. If you ignore it, it controls you. But if you integrate it, it becomes your greatest weapon. But here's the final challenge. Integrating your shadow isn't a one-time event. It's a lifelong process. And if you do it wrong, it can consume you instead of empower you. In the final part, we'll explore the dangers of embracing your dark side too much, how to keep it balanced so it fuels your strength, not your destruction, and how Jung's ultimate lesson can help you become the person you were meant to be. This is where it all comes together. By now you understand what the shadow is, you know how to find it, you know how to face it, and you know how to integrate it into your life. But there's a final lesson, a warning that Jung left for those who dare to embrace their dark side, because if you go too far, the shadow will consume you. So how do you balance it? How do you use its power without becoming its prisoner? This is the final step in your transformation. One of Jung's greatest warnings was this: if you let your shadow take over, you don't become powerful. You become lost. History is filled with people who embraced their dark side and let it control them. Tyrants who started as revolutionaries, but ended as monsters. Geniuses who unlocked their minds, but drowned in their own chaos. People who wanted strength, but became consumed by their own ego. Because here's the truth, your shadow isn't meant to lead, it's meant to serve. So, how do you keep it balanced? Jung believed that true power comes from integration, not domination. This means use your aggression, but control it with wisdom. Acknowledge your selfish desires, but act with purpose. Face your darkness, but don't let it define you. Think of it like fire. Too little and you're weak. Too much and you're destroyed. But controlled, it can forge empires. Jung called this final stage individuation, the process of becoming your fullest, most authentic self. Not just the good version of you, not just the acceptable version of you, but the whole you. The person who understands their darkness, controls it, and uses it as a force for strength, creation, and transformation. The person who doesn't hide from who they really are, and, maybe, the person you were afraid to become. So ask yourself, what part of you have you been running from? What power have you been afraid to unlock? And what would happen if you finally stopped running? Because the moment you face your shadow is the moment you finally become whole.